brief supplementary video here to the last one, mainly to talk about line of sight, but I just wanted to mention a couple of other things. One is that you can see I'm working here with the paper, unexpertly sort of blue tack down in some places, but we're going to have movement here. I've decided to do that because I want to get more light on here, because I know light on my videos has been quite bad, and I didn't want the glare from the perspex, so we're working with it like this, see how it goes. I doubt if I'll be able to do it this way for the whole battle scenario. That might create too many risks of slippage and so forth. So in an effort to reduce glare and increase lighting, we're in that situation. Another thing to mention is about command control, and something that I did, which a lot of people are going to gasp at, I think. You see here we have Hanoverian units, and you can see at the top of the counters, at the bottom as you're looking at them, there's a splotch on each of them. We'll also move over here where you can see its use more readily. These ones there in the centre have that splotch. Now I added that to indicate those are Hanoverian units. The reason being they're not a different colour from the British units, unlike the King's German Legion and the Dutch, and yet they do in certain instances have different command control requirements. So for example, these ones are okay because they're part of the 1st Division there. These ones are part of the Reserve Corps. Yeah, sorry, those are part of the 1st Corps. So, and they have different leaders. Where are we? So, there. Kilmanson, obviously his name's been truncated. He's Hanoverian, as also is Vinke and Best there. So I just needed some way to sort of help me see more clearly, otherwise they blend into each other somewhat. So that's just to mention that bit of sacrilege that I performed. I find these things sort of necessary. And now the last thing is line of sight, and I think I'm a bit aggravated because I'm feeling that the line of sight in this game is not helpful. So what we have, in the Huguenots, you know, it seemed fine. I mentioned a little bit about it. It seemed okay, but here I've been looking at line of sight again, and we've got situations which to me just don't seem right. Now, I'll just take these off for a minute. I was checking line of sight along this line. So, for example, we have level 2 artillery firing over here. Now, I ignored for the moment that because there's a unit there, that's an extra level. Firing along here at a level 3 unit, okay, on the edge as it were, fine, there's line of sight there. Then I was saying, is there line of sight to this hex, which is a level 4 hex? Apparently there still is. Then the next level 4 hex back, is there a line of sight? Apparently there still is. So there's no blockage to line of sight until we go here, which is dropping down a level again. So what I've found from that is that the famous reverse slope deployment of Wellington doesn't really come into effect. In fact, the only units I can find that are on a reverse slope are these ones here, which obviously there's an obstruction. So basically, if you're on a hill, the chances are that anyone below you can fire at you unless you're actually behind a level of that hill. And I don't know, it feels uncomfortable to me. I'll for a number of reasons, I'll go into that. Well, I'll just show you some of my calculations. So this is illustrating that situation I just showed you. So hang on a minute, I'll see if I can stabilize this. Okay, so this is the situation we just saw. This is the firing unit, and then that is that furthest target unit. So, and this is what we have. So we have like a plateau. If we're considering their plateaus, I mean, really they're rolling. Obviously, they're sort of slopes. So fair enough, anyone on these slopes could be hit. And okay, fair enough, someone standing up there could be hit. But then I projected it further back along these. Because of the way the line of sight rules work, even this far back, on this level, which is 2 levels higher than this level, these fellows are going to be hit. And in fact, they'd have to be sort of here, not to be visible and hittable by a unit there. It just doesn't seem right. And it's to do with the rule that what you do is you find the highest unit, then you count out the hexes that are higher than the other one. So 1, 2, 3 are higher than this. So we have a 3. And then we count the hexes that are on the same level and or lower than this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we times that number by the height difference. So if, in this example, the height difference is 2, so that's 8 times 2 is 16. Then we subtract that total from this total. And if it equals 0 or less, there's observation. So you can see if this is 3 and that is 16, it's easily observable to get. So you'd need 17 hexes this direction before this unit could not observe. Seems a little bit strange. Now it would be very different is instead of counting all the lowest, the same level or lower as this one, you just count its immediate ones. So 1, 2 times by the height difference would equal 4. So then this would be 1, 2, 3 times 1. Okay, visible. This one here, visible. But then that one would not be visible. And the same there. They didn't do it that way. And so what we get is situations like this. So I checked their example, which I hadn't checked before. Found out something I didn't know. They say, okay, for example, this unit here is firing at this unit here in the sand pit. No, sorry, that was one higher. And they say, okay, yes, you do have line of sight. Now, imagine there's a unit or an obstruction there. Then recalculate the line of sight. So this, and they say, and this is actually in the example, which is within the rules, but following the procedure, but it's not actually kind of pinpointed as a part of the rule section, that an obstruction or another unit in a hex adds 1 to its line, to its level. So this now becomes the same level as this. So then we have sort of 3 of the same level against 1, 2, 3, 4 of the lower level times 1 for the height difference, and then subtract this from that, we still get observation. So if we're here, then 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 3, then we don't have observation. But here we do have observation, and it just doesn't seem quite right to me. And I'll show you why. Again, I drew it out. So that's the firer. That was the target unit. Okay, observation, fair enough. Now if we put another level in here, that little house that I had, so imagine there's a house or a body of troops there, adding a level to this hex, you still have line of sight. But obviously if you draw, just on this schematic, if you draw a ruler through that, this isn't very accurate, but you can see what I'm trying to do. Any other sort of line of sight table which I'm used to, the line would chip through here, which would mean line of sight was blocked. It's not in this game. And I find it odd. I wouldn't question it if I think if I had more reverse slope concealment, but as it is, we can see in the setup for this scenario, those units are on a reverse slope, but all of these, except for these two, no, in fact this one could be hit because there's, no, hang on, okay, because these are higher level now, so those units would block these ones being fired upon, but they're only on the same level, so, but that's not really the point, is it? If these, imagine these units weren't here, all of these units would be fireable upon. This would be the only one that couldn't be targeted from someone observing from here. So that's taking away this into consideration. Well, actually, even with that there, because this is a lower level, it's not going to change the fire across there. So, and again, these units could fire all the way back at the heavy cavalry. Supposedly, well, except for these, they're at a low level. These ones, okay, these ones are obstructed a bit by there. There's one heavy cavalry unit which could be fired upon. I don't know. There seems something wrong. So I think in effect what we're going to have is units are not within line of sight because other troops obstruct them, rather than them being positioned on a reverse slope of a hill. I think there's a bit of a problem between what the this ridge line, the contour features, and the line of sight rules are trying to represent, and what they do represent. So I wanted to mention that because it feels a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to go ahead with the rules as written, and I expect it plays out fine. It is thoroughly play tested. This game was developed throughout a year with a lot of play testing according to the designer's notes. So I think it's going to be fine. But the line sight rules, they are different and they feel a bit strange. I'll report back if it becomes more comfortable and I get a sort of a beam of light at some point where it makes its sense more plain to me. So I just wanted to talk about that for a moment. Yeah, sorry, just quickly, I thought I'd just say what I think I would be comfortable is if you considered this as the top of a ridge, if there's some way of saying, right, these this row of hexes is sloping down that way, and this row of hexes is sloping down this way. So you could fire at units on here, but not fire at units here, but behind the ridge line. I mean, perhaps that's what the obstructing terrain is supposed to represent, rather than hedges or walls or something. That it's, I guess that's what it is. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's how they solved it. So it's not designed for effect, and that's what we've also got here. Yes, so these units are in line of sight, but units, these three hexes will not be because there's obstructing terrain, I think, and then there's also obstructing terrain hex size along here. Though strangely these units will still be visible. Yeah, because that will, yeah, I think that's what they've tried to do, not knowing the geography, if these are meant to be walls and or hedges, things like that, ditches and so forth. So I think with those obstruction hex size, they're kind of combining that into the line of sight rules to create that desired effect.